Madhava Kunjavi Adi Radha Kunjavi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavi Adi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajanandana Dana Brajajanandana Yasodanandana Brajajanandana Jamuna Tiravanachadi Jamuna Tiravanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Jayom Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Parivijagacharya Astachara Satasi Srimada's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 2, Chapter 2, text number 6. 6? 13. 13. Try again. Canto 2, Chapter 2, text number 13. And do we have facility to chant? Well, I'll just say once, and then you can hear. Look at this. Jitam jitam stanam apohaya dharayet param param shudyati dir yata yata. Ekaikashong gani dhyanubhavayet padadi yavad dasitam gadarbrataha jitam jitam stanam apohya dharayet param param shudyati dir yata yata. The process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to his smiling face. The meditation should be concentrated upon his lotus feet, then the calves, then the thighs, and in this way, higher and higher. The more the mind becomes fixed upon the different parts of the limbs, one after another, the more the intelligence becomes purified. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The process of meditation recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam is not to fix one's attention on something impersonal or void. The meditation should concentrate on the person of the Supreme Godhead, either in his Virat Rupa, that's the previous chapter, the gigantic universal form, or in his Satchitananda Vigraha, as described in the scriptures. There are authoritative descriptions of Vishnu forms, and there are authorized representations of deities in the temples. Thus, one can practice meditating upon the deity, concentrating his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord, and gradually rising higher and higher up to his smiling face. Paragraph. According to the Bhagavata school, the Lord's rasa dance is the smiling face of the Lord. Since it is recommended in this verse that one should gradually progress from the lotus feet up to the smiling face, we shall not jump at once to understand the Lord's pastimes in the rasa dance. It is better to practice concentrating our attention by offering flowers and tulsi at the lotus feet of the Lord. In this way, we gradually become purified by the archana process. We dress the Lord, bathe him, etc., and all these transcendental activities help us purify our existence. When we reach the higher standard of purification, if we see the smiling face of the Lord or hear the rasa dance pastimes of the Lord, then we can relish his activities in Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, the rasa dance pastimes are delineated in the 10th canto, chapters 29 through 34, paragraph. The more one concentrates on the transcendental form of the Lord, either on the lotus feet, the calves, thighs, or the chest, the more one becomes purified. In this verse, it is clearly stated, quote, the more the intelligence becomes purified, unquote, which means the more one becomes detached from sense gratification. Our intelligence in the present conditioned state of life is impure due to being engaged in sense gratification. The result of meditation on the transcendental form of the Lord will be manifested by one's detachment from sense gratification. Therefore, the ultimate purpose of meditation is purification of one's intelligence. Final paragraph. Those who are too engrossed in sense gratification cannot be allowed to participate in archana or to touch the transcendental form of the Radha Krishna or Vishnu deities. For them, it is better to meditate upon the gigantic Virat Rupa of the Lord, as recommended in the next verse. The impersonalists and the voidists are therefore recommended to meditate upon the universal form of the Lord, whereas the devotees are recommended to meditate on the deity worship in the temple. Because the impersonalists and the voidists are not sufficiently purified in their spiritual activities, archana is not meant for them. We'll go back to the verse. Ekashaha, one by one after another. The process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to his smiling face. The meditation should be concentrated upon the lotus feet, then the calves, then the thighs, and in this way higher and higher. The more the mind becomes fixed upon the different parts of the limbs one after another, the more the intelligence becomes purified. Commonly, the explanation given about the first chapter of Canto 2 is the Virat Rupa is introduced in that first chapter of Canto 2 to help people who don't have even a conception of the Supreme to form a personal conception of the Supreme, or if a person don't have a personal conception, to come to the stage of understanding all matter and all things that are by material consciousness just considered matter, that they make up a form. And here it's similar, but it's different, to help purify the intelligence, because the universal form is a form of Krishna. By meditating on that universal form, then intelligence, at least the potential is for intelligence to become purified. Now, it's certainly possible that one can meditate on the universal form and reach a different conclusion than what this chapter 2 is describing. The Lord has spiritual form. Meaning, impersonalists, they like. Some years ago, I was getting Panchakarma treatment in Bombay. Dr. Pankaj Naram was the doctor that I had confidence in. He had a clinic, so I was taking Panchakarma treatment and staying with a nice devotee that lived in his wife, elder man, that lived near where his clinic was. So his wife wasn't a devotee. I'm not going to give his name, but his wife wasn't a devotee. And she was, gently nagging that I should go to the yoga place that she goes to. So she was so into it, I finally went, long car ride, some remote place. And the place was, the setting was very nice, very, very tall, old banyan trees here and there. And then a little raised platform where they did yoga. And when I got up on the platform, they had everybody sitting in a circle, and this one said, "Yoga cured me from having to have a heart operation." Several doctors said that's the only thing, and I did this yoga and no heart operation required. And then the next one, and then the next one. So they had faith because they were getting results on the physical platform from the benefits of yoga, with a qualified teacher done in the proper way, etc. And then, so they did their, advertisement. And then the teacher took me to a place where they had just a little chair, and on the chair was a pretty large photograph of the universal form. And then he leaned over and kind of whispered, because I was in sannyas attire, he wanted to give me the secret, the confidential secret, is we have our students meditate on this universal form, but really, by meditation upon the universal form, one will come to the realization of the formless Supreme. And because I was a guest, and the circumstances, I didn't blast the man. I thought about it, but I didn't. And after some time, we left. Obviously, it left an impression. That was so many years ago. So it's not that everybody meditates. It's not that everybody meditates. Not that everybody meditates on the universal form. They meditate on all kinds of things. But it's a Vedic practice. It's in the Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1. And it is going to be mentioned in the next verse. And then Chapter 1 leads to Chapter 2. At the conclusion of Chapter 1, as one matures under proper guidance with meditation on the universal form, one leaves that form behind and enters into another practice, another stage as well, of meditation on Supersoul. So Prabhupada is taking the opportunity to move right into the bhakti realm from this, this type of meditation, which is fine, because what the meditator upon the Paramatma feature does and what the bhakta does may resemble. Meditation upon the lotus feet, etc., moving up. And very quickly, Prabhupada moves the discussion to the Bhagavatam in the later cantos. So one should read the earlier cantos before going to the later cantos, because one will not be able to understand the later cantos, or more concern is one may get the wrong idea, particularly the smiling face, the rasa dance. And it's the mistake of not being prepared to read about Krishna's pastimes, and in particular Krishna's Rasa Leela pastimes, without being properly prepared. One gets wrong ideas. One will then make offense against Krishna, calling him bad names. How can you worship a God who da-da-da-da-da-da? So when intelligence isn't sufficiently purified, this kind of Virat Rupa meditation that's why it's there. Purify intelligence. So back to the initial statement, it's often spoken that this Chapter 1 of Canto 2 is there to help people form a personal conception, because they can perceive matter. Now, how to put that perception of matter together in such a way there's a person. So it's not atheists, but persons just don't have a personal conception. And deity worship is for persons who have some purified intelligence, and thus they can contact the deity not thinking material, at least understanding my material conceptions are coverings. It's not who the deity really is. The deity is a person. And then further purification, meditating from the lotus feet on up, etc. The Prabhupada's taking this Virat Rupa meditation, connecting it. He even doesn't even highlight the Paramatma meditation. It's deity worship, and the Bhagavatam started the first canto, second canto, the two lotus feet of the Lord, before going to the smiling face, 10th canto, or the Rasa Lila dance section. In 1973, Srila Prabhupada took a group of devotees from the World Sankirtan Party to Vrindavan. And then the very next year was the first Mayapur Vrindavan Festival, 1974. So in 1973, at what Prabhupada calls Rupa Goswami's place, and that is where his samadhi is, or where his rooms were, and that backside, as you face the altar of Radha Damodar to the right. Now there's a building there, but Prabhupada sat where there wasn't a building, with his back to the building, and the devotees out in front of him sat on a little platform and spoke on nectar devotion, Rupa Goswami. So in that section, in that first, or the classes, Prabhupada was explaining that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami consistently both didn't bring the topic of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan to the foreground. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't do like that. He discussed with confidential people in the evening hours, but with the public, it was Nama Sankirtan. Prabhupada sat for 4 hours daily. And then in the evening, with qualified devotees, meaning specifically Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy, he would discuss Krishna's confidential pastimes. But we don't find anywhere that Mahaprabhu discussed Krishna's pastimes, the Rasa Lila section, in public gatherings. He didn't. He spoke Vedanta Sutra with Prakashananda Saraswati and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and others, even so. Not that he didn't know. It's another nice example of this. In addition to Rupa Goswami, the composition of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he didn't right away go to Krishna's pastimes. It's there in the latter chapters, and it's there in Ujjvala Nilamani, which is a sequel to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but not where he started, because intelligence has to be purified in order to get even an inkling of what his pastimes are, who he is and what his pastimes are. Purified intelligence is required. So similarly, the earlier cantos of the Bhagavatam is required. Another nice example of this is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur conducted Brajmandal Parikram. He conducted Navadvip Parikram as well. But for Brajmandal Parikram, for the whole 30 days of Kartik month, he took the devotees to various places of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. And in the evening, he would give katha. There's many things that happened, but during one stretch of time, he was based in Radhakund. He had a place, and he was based in Radhakund, and he would give classes. And it said that in the evenings, he would give classes on Ishopanishad for days in a row. And then afterwards, doing that, he then introduced Krishna's pastimes, specifically the Ashtakaliya Lila, the 8 full times of Krishna's day, saying this is for very elevated people. And we're not very elevated people, so we don't indulge because we might get wrong understandings, etc., etc. In fact, he said, on the one hand, it's the essence, or it's not the essence, but it's a special. It has its special place in the lives of the followers of Lord Chaitanya, but it's for persons who, for 15 or 20 years, have chanted 64 rounds a day and followed everything very strictly. Then they may enter into that kind of meditation. He was like a little specific. These topics are floating around in ISKCON today, where qualified people are properly cautious and unqualified people aren't. So, not that we fault find or anything, but we each of us should be aware of there is a place for this, and its place is when one is sufficiently purified of intelligence, so that these finer understandings are objects of our meditation, just like the smiling face of the deity, or the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, or the eightfold pastimes, the eightfold times of the day. We've been reading Brihat Bhagavatamrita, and he doesn't announce it, but in his own way, Sanatana Goswami is giving us, through his reader, a little picture of what Krishna does during different times of the day. He's not tooting a horn and beating a drum, but that's what he's doing in some sections. And it's Krishna meditation. But Krishna meditation can be very simple. Prabhupada made an album, Krishna Meditations. He was singing the Brahma Samhita prayers. And some of the Brahma Samhita prayers are very special, according to Jiva Goswami. Some of the Brahma Samhita prayers are very special. They're, he names the numbers of the prayers, this one, that one, are mantra upasana prayers. That is, they're capturing, in like an artist's painting, will capture like this nice painting up here, Radha and Krishna and Radha in her mood of anger. It's capturing an image of loving exchange that exists in the spiritual realm. And some of the Brahma Samhita prayers are in that category. And we chant without necessarily getting all worked up saying, I'm doing mantra upasana. Or we read Brihad Bhagavatamrita not with the getting all wound up saying, I'm doing Ashtakaliya Leela Snan or Smarana. We're just, hearing the Bhagavatam from a qualified person. And here, Prabhupada is cautioning in this purport, even in deity worship, and even more specifically with the hearing of topics in relation to Krishna, if one's intelligence isn't sufficiently purified, such that with sufficiently purified intelligence one can understand, like, for example, the Paramatma feature distinct from the Virat-rupa feature, and then the next chapter moves from meditation on the Paramatma feature to the Bhagavan feature. And then the indication that one is properly situated for that kind of meditation, like with deity worship, is one's sense activities are purified. Because when the intelligence becomes purified, senses are becoming purified by engaging senses in service. So it's a gradual process, generally speaking. And one should be enthusiastic to become purified in a gradual manner, and one shouldn't be enthusiastic to jump. Okay, let's see if there's some discussion. Over here.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
I can count on you for some questions. Usually. Not always, but usually. It's good.
Guru Maharaj, this point that Prabhupada makes that we should read the Srimad Bhagavatam in order.
Yes.
So sometimes what's happening is when we've been reading for 2 years Srimad Bhagavatam regularly. So our group is in 4th canto. So now some people who want to join, I get a phone call periodically saying your timing when you read is the only time that works for us. So should they
Yes.
try to join
Yes.
in the...
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
You want some Prabhupada sets to verify? Or you're just happy saying yes?
Yeah, I'm happy with your yes, but yeah, just it gets confusing because
Yes, no, don't get confused. That's best, but it's not like if you haven't read the first 3 cantos, you can't join a reading group that's reading 4th canto. It's not like that. Here's a practical example. You've probably heard me say this before. When Prabhupada was translating the Srimad Bhagavatam, it was intense. How that the pace at which he was moving. So when a new volume came out, like let's say Canto 3 had 4 parts. So here's a shipment. This is for the airport party, which I was part of for some period of time. Canto 3, Canto 3, Part 3, or Canto 3, Part 2, or Canto 3, Part 4. And, what we would do when we met people, we would give them Canto 3, put it in their hand. And then sometimes, not too often, but sometimes you say, what about the other parts? And we were distributing it to people who weren't devotees. And Prabhupada said to say, just like ice cream, you can lick on any side and it's sweet, and just move on. So people that join your reading group in the 4th canto, it's just fine. They can be encouraged, depends on their schedule, they can be encouraged on their own to read, or find a reading group that's ready to read starting in Canto 1. But there's no prohibition. And sadhu sangha is such an important element. They're not likely to read Canto 1 on their own. That's why they want to join the reading group.
And one more question, Guru Maharaj, a little bit off topic. So we also hear that we should try to do activities in mode of goodness. But I find myself I don't know if I understand my nature correctly, but I find myself constantly wanting to do things. I can't find myself just sitting down. So I feel is that considered mode of passion?
Absolutely. But it's not like it's only you. Here's a Prabhupada said. In Vrindavan, there are many persons who chant, he was saying 120 rounds a day. Not just 64. But 64 times 2 is more than 120, but he used 120 figure. But you Western people, you can't do that because you're so active. You're moved by passion. And so minimum 16. More is fine, but minimum 16. And that because we need activity. And then he would encourage activity. He would direct towards, according to one's nature, but in a general sense, he would direct towards Lord Chaitanya's Prithiviti Achi Yati Nagaradigram. Take this message and deliver it to everyone. Not that that's mode of passion, that's in transcendence. But one who is not in transcendence, passion and that activity fit well together. And it will purify. Having activities that are Krishna-centered. Not just, pick any activity because I'm restless, but it'll, those that will purify. And as one becomes purified, then the capacity to sit down and focus becomes more, mode of goodness becomes promoted. And, it's right in the Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2. Rajas tamas become diminished just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and mode of goodness. Sattve stitvam prasidati. So you're not weird or bad or you're quite normal, like all the rest. Okay. There we go.
Guru Maharaj, this is about that systematic and critical reading or hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm finding myself at times it's too much of inquisitiveness or the curiosity we were talking last night. So it keeps happening. I see so much stuff when I read or hear, so much was coming and I want to start working on something, and the next morning when I read or hear something else coming, so I just get so overwhelmed, and at one point I said, okay, no more reading and no more hearing. I just want to take a break. So when we say critically reading Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, how do we balance that aspect? I don't want to just read on the surface and just be done just for the sake of it. I want to take it into my heart, but not get lost in seeing my anarthas or trying to understand why Prabhupada said this or why Prabhupada said that.
Utsaha nischaya dhairayat. That's how. The confidence, the confidence that if I just stick with this process, that the polluted intelligence and mind and the influence of restlessness in the modes of nature in various ways will gradually become cleansed. Therefore, let me remain enthusiastic, well, patient, and I'm convinced. Dharyat. And just stay with it, with those, with faith and submission. Just like the verse number 3 that we focused on, the chapter 14, verse 3. Hearing from Krishna and from Krishna's devotees, the transcendental message, then it's for sure. So that's the reassurance in the Bhagavatam, and you just carry on. And you're going to have to, learn to tolerate interruptions. That's just, that's the price everyone has to pay for getting involved in the material energy and getting all contaminated. Supposing, somebody became infected with COVID, they're going to have to tolerate and take the proper treatment to get on the other side of that infection. So we've been materially infected, and we need good physicians, spiritual physicians, and we follow. Okay? And you tolerate I'm paying the price for all of my worldly, ambitions that are pushing me. So, okay.
Just a follow-up, Guru Maharaj. As I was mentioning about some of Prabhupada's statements, kind of distracting or disturbing, I was really very touched when you shared the example of Narsingadev appearing as cat sometimes, how you just stopped when Keshav Bharati Maharaj said, and you just like...
Well, it's not just he said. I mean, I understood, but the explanation I gave him, it wasn't just out of curiosity. It's just to enhance the mood of shelter taking. And if there wasn't clarity, then, okay. I'm not going to ponder on something where there isn't clarity. There's lots to ponder on that has clarity. But it was the purpose of the inquiry wasn't just information. The purpose of the inquiry was to nourish the mood of shelter taking. The different features and facets of the object of shelter. And if it's meant to become revealed in time, there's so many things to learn. One should be inquisitive. One should want to understand more. And in some particular point. And collaborating this reference with another reference to appreciate the beauty of the way that Krishna has been revealed to us. I'm going to touch on one of that particular point I just made this evening. You'll see this evening. Anything else over here? We have online? 4.
This question is from Divyambara Mataji. Maharaj, you tolerated the impersonalist. What am I supposed to do when I, as a struggling neophyte, encounter an impersonalist?
It depends on the situation. I mean, you're not, a very powerful scriptural Vaishnavi. So you may just remain silent. Or say, or say something that's soft and gentle, like matches your nature. I'm sorry, but I've been trained differently. Depends on you and the circumstance. How you have options. You could pray to Prabhupada and Krishna. I've just heard some offense against you. Please forgive me. You have options.
Questions from Amara Mataji. Srila Prabhupada has introduced Krishna as a person right from the beginning.
Yes.
Even in his small books, which we read with new people coming from different concepts, mostly impersonal, we can read the descriptions or examples of some Krishna's pastimes with his friends. Could you kindly help us understand what was Prabhupada's vision?
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine. That was his vision. Most likely, it's not verified that I'm aware, most likely he wrote his own prana mantra. And that was his prana mantra. So he was doing what was his calling, or his a important dimension of how he approached delivering Krishna consciousness. And coming from the lips of a pure devotee, in the right circumstance, he knew how to say it. And his books, of course, is for everybody. Anyway, that's how we can understand. He had a mission to reveal Krishna to the world. So in different ways, in different writings, but consistently, Krishna is the person. He didn't compromise. And he would say again, I don't compromise. Next.
Another second question from Amara Mataji. Could you kindly elaborate on the term purified intelligence?
Purified intelligence. Well, there's contaminated and there's purified. There's contaminated consciousness and purified consciousness. That that purified consciousness, purified intelligence means buddhi, spiritual intelligence. Buddhi can be translated, and it is sometimes translated as material intelligence. More commonly, it indicates spiritual intelligence. And purified intelligence is spiritual intelligence. Spiritual intelligence starts with knowing who we are, or knowing what we are, as a soul distinct from matter, and then further. So when it's purified intelligence, it's demonstrated when one is not indulging in sense gratification, and when one hears topics about Krishna, one becomes spiritually enlivened and wants to hear more and more.
Snehavalli Mataji's question. The following statement in the purport, the result of meditation on the transcendental form of the Lord will be manifested by one's detachment from sense gratification.
Yes.
It seems that the result of meditation is something more after detachment from sense gratification. Is this the correct understanding? If yes, what is the result?
There's something more. Read that last sentence one more time.
It seems that the result of meditation is something more after detachment from sense gratification.
Well, it means the positive activities. So if there's no activities for sense gratification, something more is deploying the senses in service to Krishna. The mind, mamanusmara yujyacha. When the mind is absorbed in Krishna and one is engaged in activities in relation to Krishna, that's the something more. So the negation, detachment from sense gratification, the something more is the positive activity of the mind and senses.
Sucharita Mataji's question. When everything around fails to inspire on the path of bhakti, more so because of my disposition, where can one find inspiration surely to continue my sadhana bhakti?
Sadhu Sangha. Anything else?
Second question from Sucharita Mataji. If someone is not making personal prayers to Krishna but still following all processes with regard to deity worship, if he or she to be understood not connected to personal form of the Lord?
That's not a correct understanding. Because their worship is a form of prayer. It's implied by the activity. So it's not just the activity, but it's the consciousness behind the activity. But if the consciousness behind the activity is aligned with what the activity is displaying, then that's just fine. And in time, the attraction for certain prayers or their own prayer will rise. Next.
This question is from yesterday evening. The discussion between Devi Murti Mataji's question about seeing Krishna in the tree.
Oh,
So, to follow up with that question, is one better over another? Meaning, seeing Krishna's energy through knowledge or through devotion, is one better than the other?
well, yes. And devotion is better. But when the devotion is there, it's not the knowledge goes out to lunch. Knowledge is operative and is sustained by the devotion. It's a more mature stage of knowledge, more complete stage of knowledge. So it's better. That's it. Anything else in the room? Srila Prabhupada.